Okay, so good morning. Hello, welcome everyone joining us in Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. I'm Maurice Carter, President of Sustainable Newton, and I'm very pleased to be joined this morning by Mike Hopkins, the Executive Director of the Newton County Water and Sewerage Authority, and Wayne Haney, the Chief Engineer. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Last month, we had a webinar with Michael Oxman and David Eady from the Georgia Tech at the Racy Anderson Center for Sustainable Business, and discussed some of the projects that Georgia Tech is involved in with industries around the state on climate, on Drawdown Georgia. And Wayne was kind enough to contact me after that session and make us aware of some work that they are also doing with a different area at Georgia Tech and some private consultants with industrial water sources at our Stanton Springs Industrial Park out in East Newton, Morgan, and Walton counties, home to Facebook and Takeda. And so the project Wayne describes very interesting. We thought it would be very helpful for our members and followers to hear a little bit more about that project. And so, we're talking water today. So Wayne and I are obviously playing the water side of things, and Mike is keeping us grounded with his desert scene in the back. So I'm going to let Mike kick it off first, and then we're going to let Wayne tell us a little bit more about the project out at Stanton Springs. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice, and everyone. Thank you for letting us be here to discuss some things that we have, some exciting things we have going on at the Newton County Water and Sewage Authority. As most of y'all are aware, Stanton Springs on the eastern portion of Newton County, which includes Walton, Morgan, Jasper, and Newton counties, is a research development park. In 2012, we were able to land the counties, were able to land Takeda Pharmaceuticals. It's been Baxter, Shire, several names, but now it's Takeda Pharmaceuticals, which was a $2 billion pharmaceutical plant that required about 1 million gallons of water a day. And so a big industry in our business here coming in. So in 2012, we began to provide water and sewer infrastructure to Stanton Springs. And if you're local and you're aware of most things going on, Exit 101 still does not have anything out on Exit 101. It is pretty rural, except for the big industries that are going in. 2018, we were able to land Facebook data centers, which are 5 buildings at about 2.5 million square feet under roof. Their daily water usage is almost 500,000 gallons a day, is what the service agreement we drafted with them. And then here, just this past week, Morgan County confirmed with the JDA that they approved of a corporation called Baymare, which will have a water need of about 1 million gallons a day. And so between the 3 industries there at Stanton Springs, we're looking at almost 2.5 million gallons of water needs per day. A little bit less than half of that will be wastewater treatment. And so the authority has been in a continual growth mode in that localized area since 2011. And so we've spent to date $54 million on water and wastewater infrastructure. And we're coming up this past budget season. We just approved another $80 million in capital improvements. That's not just strictly for the east side. That will be somewhere all when it's built out about $100 million. So cheap stuff, really inexpensive stuff to do, but we're able to do it. And all kidding aside, we're building a water reclamation facility, our first stream discharge that will take the water and return it to the stream. That's a $25 million project. So these things are highly expensive. But we're thankful. We work well with the JDA and our county partners. They are in the park. And, I believe in it personally that I think that the counties have done well in their selection. When you look at the recession or the COVID environment we're in, what better than to have a pharmaceutical company and data centers? You need some vaccines or you need some medicines, and then everybody's got to stay connected. So, that has been a positive for us. And to think that a 1,600-acre park would only have 3 tenants, which is pretty amazing. So in getting back to our daily demand, if you look at this total build out on these 3 projects, that would be equivalent to half of what we're serving right now. And we're serving almost 26,000 customers in Newton County. And so these big industries are really unique and rare. I talk to state utility directors often, and they say, how can I get one of these big projects? And you know, we've just been blessed here in Newton County with the economic development team, and Walton and Newton have been real aggressive, and we've been able to provide much critical services that they need. And so with that in mind, Wayne and I have been discussing this throughout this whole entire past year. Look, you know, we keep getting these unicorns, is what we call them, or high water users. You know, we understand and know that our water and sewer capacities are finite. I think, you know, we're well aware of that. We want to be good environmentalists. We want to be good stewards of our resource. And so how do we protect that? How do we continue to allow economic development to bring in these big industries that we feel is needed for our region, but also how can we commit to the water uses that they demand? And so with that, I want to turn it over to our Chief Engineer, Mr. Wayne Haney, and then be glad to hang around and ask any question, answer any questions that you might have. I do want to say this: we're proud of the Water and Sewer Authority. Last year was our 50th year. And so if anybody wants to come out when you feel safe to come out of COVID, plant tours, ride the system with you, spend time with you, it really behooves us to get our message out that we are here for the community, and we do want to be One Newton, a part of that. And so I just thank you for your time today. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Wayne.
And as Wayne gets started, I didn't say this at the start, but anybody that has questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can also raise your hand, and at the end, I'll call on you and we'll let you ask your question yourself. So go ahead and put them in there. We'll let Wayne give his presentation, then we'll come back and go through any questions in the chat and any new questions people have. So Wayne, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Maurice, and appreciate everybody attending today and talking to us about water, which we are strong on water. We're excited about water, and we want to protect water. In 2018, when I came on board with Mike, we had a new project. Mike mentioned it called Morning Hornet, which is code for a Facebook data center. And of course, they were coming on board in 18 roughly, and now they are in the midst of a humongous construction project. And the pre-qualification, or the prerequisite, is that you can see these places from the moon. They're so big. It's quite amazing. But Mike mentioned the Takeda, which is our pharmaceutical, and they are our largest customer. They use close to, they've contracted for up to 1 million gallons a day and are producing vaccines. You'll see them on TV for various drugs and vaccines. And they are talking about expanding. We've got Facebook, and we've got another data center that's coming on board, and talk of other advanced manufacturing facilities that are water users. For a while, we've not seen industries that use a lot of water, but they have found Newton County and are locating in a park that they find attractive, and so we are here to serve them. I did see some questions earlier when Mike was talking about returns to the stream, and we'll get to that shortly. When in 18, we were contacted by Georgia Institute of Technology, got a long-standing relationship with Dr. Kuhn and his senior student teams each semester. They graduate environmental engineering students. So he'll reach out to people in the industry and ask, do you have any projects? And working in both private sector and the public sector, I always try to find projects for these kids, super smart kids, to help us with. I call them kids; they're young adults, but they're scary smart, and they do solve problems. They look outside the box for solutions and have really done well for us. So in 18, I asked Mike, could we engage a team to look at alternatives for the water use. Right now, our data centers rely on potable water from our drinking water system, and they will use that for cooling. And so the thought is, after some research in the industry, the thought is there a secondary water that might be attractive to industry for uses such as cooling or manufacturing? So we responded to Georgia Tech that we would like a team to take a look at alternatives for water use in Newton County, and they responded with a study. And I'm going to share my screen here just a second and kind of show you the original abstract, if you will. It's kind of a white paper, if you will. Let's see here, share. There we go. Mike and Maurice, are y'all seeing the paper?
Yes.
Good deal. Okay, and we just sort of have an aerial photography of the first Facebook site, which is referred to as Morning Hornet. And on the north side of that photo, you'll see Takeda, which is the pharmaceutical. And you can see the size of the data center in comparison to the pharmaceutical. And they're building 6 buildings there at the Facebook site. And they're much further along than that aerial would indicate. The interesting thing we found out from what Facebook is that they only have 25% of the capacity that their customers demand. And if you look at that construction right there and think about these going in all over the world, actually, they are going in on every continent, and they need some form of cooling, and there's different technologies for this. Why are they building these facilities? Well, as you might expect, we're transforming to a digital economy, as is the rest of, I call it Western Europe and the industrial world. There's a rapid pace that's really being driven by the Internet of Things. As more and more devices come online, the data is needed. So these large farms or warehouses or whatever you want to call them, data centers, are being developed by the big tech companies. Georgia already has a data center on the other side, the west side of Atlanta, a Google facility. And we're leaning heavily on our a sister authority, Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority, on their lessons learned with Google. Anyway, buildings 1 and 2, which are the finished buildings there on the screen at my cursor, those are already using water to cool, and they're routing data from all over the world through these two buildings that are active now, and then they have other buildings under construction. Thinking about this, we really got to asking our industries, could we offer other water for you to use? Because like Mike said, our drinking water, our potable water, mainly the withdrawal from the river, is finite. So everything we can do to preserve our source water and indeed our wastewater discharge is going to increase our ability to sustain our development in this county and sustain our communities long term. Water is life, as we all know. And so we are looking at ways. So Georgia Tech came on board. This was the original abstract in the fall of 2018. They had a team study this situation and came up with the alternative of maybe a reclaimed water system, reclaimed wastewater, whereby we would intercept the wastewater from the data centers and our pharmaceutical. Their wastewater stream is very clean. It's not like traditional wastewater or traditional sanitary wastewater. And could we reclaim that and send that back to them in a second pipe system, a reclaimed water system, and have them connect and use that for cooling or for fire suppression? And indeed, the Georgia Tech team in 2018 came up with these alternatives. And now, 3 years later, in 2021, we have another Georgia Tech team that is studying, that is actually developing the preliminary design for the reclaimed water system. So they have come up with a reverse osmosis technology that they will use. It's an old technology, been around for many years. It's almost a commodity. The technology is sound. It's used around the world, especially in desalinization, where seawater is treated and converted for other uses. So we're going to take that. It looks like the study's not over yet. The Georgia Tech team will present to us and our paid consultants on Monday, the 26th, which happens to be a couple of weeks from now. But they're going to present their findings, and we're hoping that they will have a good design for us. Our paid consultants are working on this parallel to the Georgia Tech senior team, and I believe they are working along the same track. In other words, they are looking at that technology also. So we're going to find out more at the presentations on Monday the 26th. Mike mentioned we are building a new plant that'll be commissioned in March of 2022. That's the A. Scott Emmons Water Reclamation Facility. We'll commission that next year. It's currently sized at 1.25 MGD. It discharges to the Oconee River Basin. We have a portion of our county and the 4-county area that Mike mentioned, the JDA, is in the Oconee River Basin. So we've got a plant in the Oconee River Basin, and we've got our existing Yellow River treatment plant in the Ocmulgee River Basin. We mentioned our source water is finite. Well, so is our wastewater discharges. Yellow River Basin or the Ocmulgee, we can discharge up to 4 million gallons a day. And in the Oconee River Basin, which is the new Emmons plant, we can discharge up to 1.25. With the demands that are coming at us with the new industries, we are looking at having to expand the Emmons plant, and it's not even complete. So that's why the alternative water supply would be extremely valuable to Newton County, because we can begin to take some of these uses, such as industrial water, and use our reclaim to satisfy that need. So, for instance, if Takeda, the pharmaceutical, were to take just 500,000 gallons a day off of our potable water demand, then you can see how that would ripple through our entire water supply. It would reduce the amount of raw water we would be withdrawing to supply drinking water for those uses, and it would reduce the amount of wastewater discharge that would go back into the stream. So that's why these reclaim systems are so valuable to the water, to the overall water resources supply for our county. Similarly, the data centers who are using the water for cooling, if they can make use of a reclaimed water, then that will take that load off of the potable water system and off of the sanitary wastewater discharge and allow that to be recycled. Now, these industries already are good water stewards. They do recycle the water they take from us already, especially the data centers. They reuse the water up to 3 passes, as they call it, before they discharge it. But it comes to us fairly clean still, and we will treat that and hopefully return that to them in a reclaimed water system. Our challenges that we laid out to our teams from Georgia Tech and also our consultants is, you can see the 5 there. Rather than discharge treated wastewater, should this water be offered to industry as a raw material or reused water? How would we get it to the industries? How might we reuse water discharged from the data centers? When should we expand Emmons to treat more than 1.25? And then how can we balance the needs of data storage with other water needs, including drought management, recreation, health-related services, agriculture, irrigation, and manufacturing? So those are the challenges that we've laid out to our Georgia Tech senior design teams, as well as our paid consultants. The Emmons plant you'll see there is under construction in the photo on the left of that little paper there. And it has come a long way since that photo was made earlier in the spring. We're looking forward to our presentation with the 2021 senior design team from Georgia Tech. And we did hand off the 2018 work to them so that they could take that and go from there. And we hope that they will continue to return to us with other teams to work on other projects in the future. So I'm going to stop right there. I probably rambled a little more than I should have, but I want to let some questions gather and see if Mike has anything to add to that.
So again, if anyone has questions, you can type it in the chat, or if you raise your hand in the Zoom, I can unmute you so you can ask the question yourself.
Maurice, tell me I wasn't on mute the whole time.
No, you weren't. All right, I got Hunter's raised his hand. Now I've got to test my ability to do what I said. Okay, Hunter, you'll be able to unmute yourself. And
how about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Wayne, quick question. Just because I don't understand the process on the reuse of those waters that are going back, for raw water. Are those waters held in some kind of storage, or are they just cycled as they discharge?
That is an excellent question, Hunter. Storage and distribution and transmission of reclaimed water will be part of the overall scheme. And the senior design teams are looking at how we would construct new lines and new storage facilities so that we do equalize the amount of reclaimed water that we have. For instance, if fire suppression might be the use of the reclaimed water, then we may well want tanks in the Stanton Springs area that would store that reclaimed water, and then we would have it available for fire if that were to arise. The pharmaceutical has a fire suppression tank on site. They may convert that to their fire suppression system over to the reclaim system. And so every bit of demand that we could remove from the potable water system, again, really helps both the water supply and the wastewater treatment end of our business. And does that kind of answer what you were asking?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. Bill Couch has asked in the chat, what criteria are used for maintaining minimum in-stream flows?
That is a excellent question also. Our raw water withdrawals on the Alcovy River have a minimum in-stream flow requirement. And what that means is we try to get what we are allotted by the state of Georgia out of the river, and we pump that to a reservoir, the Lake Varner Reservoir at the Cornish Creek Water Treatment Plant. And we must maintain that minimum in-stream flow. So that stream flow is monitored by Newton County Board of Commissioners. They own and operate the water supply system here in Newton County, meaning the water treatment plant, the raw water reservoir, and the raw water withdrawal. So that is a sensitive area that we must maintain that minimum in-stream flow for the downstream environment. The criteria being that we maintain that CFS in the river. And I'm sure Mike will attest, the system is only as strong as how you weather the drought. And the droughts will come. We don't know when the droughts will come, and we don't know when they'll end either. And that's the driver of the water supply system. You have to be able to manage the drought. We are actively looking, and the county is actively looking around for how can we improve our drought management capability. And so there are other water supply projects in the region. And so I'm sure conversations will continue with our other partners, those on the JDA, the Joint Development Authority. We'll be looking at water supply out into the future. But the county watches the stream flow, they measure the stream flow, and if they can't meet minimum in-stream flow, they cannot withdraw water from the river to pump to the Lake Varner Reservoir. Ask that gentleman if we hopefully answered that.
Yeah, Bill,
More, can I interject something here?
Please do.
Don't mind. In 2018, we embarked for the first time in the history of the water systems in Newton County of doing a joint strategic master plan, both water and wastewater. So we took into consideration the demands of all the cities, Walton County, who is a partner with Newton County Water Resources Department, Jasper County, and then our industrial growth as well. And we have exhaustively studied the water supply here for each entity in Newton County, and like I said, in the surrounding counties, and we are monitoring that closely. It's an incredible tool. The recent water service agreement that was signed by all the parties includes monetary or some monies to maintain and update these plans, as industries such as Baymare that just came in is a big user. So the one thing I think that's really important for everybody here, or for me, one of the most important things is we're watching. We're paying attention to what's going on. We're looking at the systems. We're maintaining. And like I said, we have been under a constant construction since 2012. Water Resources Department from Newton County has been, it's just started construction here a year ago and will be under construction in similar fashion for years to come. But all of us now are together and are watching and paying attention to these demands and the impacts of the systems. And it's a pretty powerful tool for us to be able to look. So as future projects come to this area, we have the ability to say, hey, we can support this, or no, this is not going to work from a water standpoint. So it gives me a lot of comfort. It's one thing that doesn't keep me up at night. So
I had a question from Asher Dozier, who asked, how does the financial cost of reclaiming the water compare to the cost of traditional water application? I completely understand and support sustainability benefits, but I'm curious, what is the cost of obtaining that?
We repay our debt or our costs of construction through our connection fees. And so as industries move into our county, they pay their allocated share of the cost of the large projects that serve them. And that's both on the water side and the wastewater side. I want to commend Mike. He has developed a strong balance sheet here at the authority to fund projects and to sustain us through good and lean times. As a reclaimed water system, there are those around, especially out west. There have been a few in Georgia. Generally, when you talk reclaimed, you're talking, well, let's ship water over to the golf course, or let's water some green space. The beauty of this particular area is that the customers are all in one place, and it's on one street, essentially. So our cost of development of a reclaim system will be about equal to the cost of constructing the water system. There'll be new distribution lines, perhaps a storage reservoir, probably a pump station or two, and some treatment units, which the upcoming studies that we mentioned will lay out the cost of reverse osmosis or ultrafiltration, or whatever the technology ends up being. Mike mentioned we're spending $25 million on the new wastewater treatment plant, the Emmons plant, and parallel to this, the county is spending $23 million at the water treatment plant for some long overdue improvements over at the water treatment plant. So that's just $50 million right there. We've got another probably another $15 to $20 million of improvements to create this reclaimed system, and we recoup it from the customers is the way we pay for that. I mentioned the balance sheet. Georgia has a unique Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, which is kind of our friendly credit union for borrowing water, wastewater, and energy funds for projects. And they make borrowing very easy and very attractive for sound water and sewer agencies. The money is loaned out for long periods of time with extremely low interest rates. The state of Georgia sells bonds and provides that back to water agencies for projects. So we've got very attractive loan proceeds, and then of course the strong cash position, which we use to fund projects. Hopefully that addressed that one.
You got a thumbs up from Asher in the chat. A couple of things in the Q&A that kind of can probably be answered one after the other. So JJ Hayden was asking, what are the primary sources of water in Newton County? And then Nancy Schultz has asked, given new industrial demands of Stanton Springs, is the current water supply system sufficient, or do we need to look at Hard Labor Creek Reservoir for future demands?
I would like to add on to something Mike said a while ago, and that was the 2018 Water Strategic Plan that was led by the county. It identifies that we have ample water supply through 2050, and in that, in those projections, we included a 15% annual increase in industrial demand, or in that window of time, there's a room for growth in industrial demand. So we feel confident that we've studied this situation, and we're planning for the future water supply. Now, we are, like Mike said, these are very unique industries. We don't see as many high water users anymore, but they seem to be liking our area. So we are taking a strong look at other regional water supply projects. Nancy Schultz mentioned Hard Labor Creek, and so they are a party to the Joint Development Authority, and I am certain that there's a 12 billion gallon reservoir sitting over there, a beautiful facility, and the fishermen are enjoying it. I think their commission would like to see that asset put to some use. So there are conversations here and there about that. The good thing is we have time, and we're moving toward that. So I'll stop there.
Okay. And then Bill Couch had a follow-up from earlier in the chat, which was, what CFS does Georgia EPD require for in-stream flow on the Alcovy?
I've seen it, but I don't remember the number. And Mike, I know you've seen it.
I'm sorry, Wayne. That's CFS.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge.
We'd have to page in James Brown from the county in order to answer that one, but we will get that distributed, that answer.
Okay.
It is a good question.
Good question.
All right. If I missed anybody, say so, but did anybody else have questions for Wayne or Mike? All right. If not, gentlemen, thanks so much for spending time with us this morning. Wayne, thank you for reaching out to suggest this. I think it's been a great topic, and Lord knows water there is no sustainability without water. As I've just about emptied my glass while we're talking here. So we appreciate the work you guys do. I appreciate the folks that have joined us today with interest in this topic. Please do keep a watch on our calendar on our website, sustainablenewton.org, for future events. We've got a session coming up 1st of May with our extension agent, Ashley Best, who's going to do some work to help educate us on how we compost at home. And with our gardens all taking off this spring, it's good to have a way to put the food we don't manage to eat back into the system. So that'll be very good. And a lot of people have been asking for that kind of information. And we're always coming out with other topics. If anybody has something you'd like to see us dive into, let us know. Next week's Earth Day on Thursday. And there are so many, after last year with all of us being kind of locked down, so many virtual events, I was exhausted at the end of Earth Day. So we're not doing anything separate Sustainable Newton-wise, but we do have some short features that we put together, particularly focused on young people, and tips that, we've gleaned from some of our children and from some of our school age kids that, can really help us all take a different look at how we go about life. So look for those next week on our social media or our website. Look for the composting coming up. And with that, I will wrap us up this morning. Again, thanks, Mike and Wayne. Thanks, everybody else. And as we head into the weekend, I hope everybody has a great one. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Goodbye.